Welcome back. Today we are going to make a Christmas cone, or I guess sometimes they're referred to as Victorian candy cones. And for that we're going to use a plastic bottle, any size you want. And if you're making the size that I am, let me see, this is 16.9 fluid ounce. You will need a 6-inch doily. We need something to decorate with. I'm going to use these stickers from the dollar store that I used on my advent calendar. We need ribbon, a piece of scrapbook paper, and I'm going to put a tassel on mine, but you don't have to. But if you do want to, number 10 crochet cotton thread, and a piece of lightweight cardboard that's cut the lengths that you want your tassel to be. I'm going to use a yarn needle to help me do a few things today. A pair of scissors. Now I also have a razor knife. I start cutting my bottle with the razor knife and then I finish up with the scissors, but you can cut it whatever way is the easiest for you. I have a glue gun, and you need something, a punch that's strong enough to go through 1 or 2 layers of this plastic. If you don't have a punch that's that strong, then you could use a hammer and nail, or maybe a screw and a screwdriver, whatever you need to make 2 holes. Now I'm going to use my wood burner. I don't know if you should do that or not, so I'm not going to recommend that you do that, but that is what I'm going to do. And you need some strong tape. I'm using a packing tape, and I've cut off a few pieces in advance. And I think that's it. If there's anything else, I'll tell you as we're going through the project, and I'll put everything that you need in the description box. So get your stuff together. Okay, we're going to start this project by cutting our bottle from here to here. So basically where this label is. And I'm going to take off the label, and there's going to be a section of your bottle that has been glued, and that's not really going to come off very easy. Don't worry about that. Just leave it there. It's not going to affect our project. So take off your label, make your cuts, and once you make your rough cuts, go back and cut them nicely so that there's no jagged edges and you don't get cut. So here is mine, and what I have done is I sanded it only because I didn't want it to glare while you're trying to see it. So you definitely don't need to sand it, it's just for the camera. So now what we're going to do is we're going to place this into a cone shape, and it's not, I'm not going to lie, it's not super easy. As a matter of fact, I'll probably have to do mine off camera, but you know, it's a little tiny bit of a struggle, but you keep with it and you'll get there, and it doesn't have to be perfect, so that helps. So get this into a cone the best that you can, and then tape it up with your strong tape. Okay, here is my cone, and as you can see, it's not perfect. Now we need to decide what we want to do with this top. I mean, you can leave it pointed like this if you'd like. You can round it off. You can cut it all the way around and make the top even. I did that with one of mine. But go ahead and cut this and shape it the way you want it. Okay, I just rounded mine off a little bit. Now what we're going to do is place this onto our doily. And if yours is like mine, when you wrap this doily, there's going to be a section right here that shows through that doily, or it's higher than the doily. So go ahead and wrap your doily around and then trim this plastic so that you don't see it anymore. Okay, I have trimmed my cone. and you can't see it anymore, and that's what it looks like. So whatever it takes just to cover that up. Now we're going to make the holes on either side to put your ribbon through. So I squeeze it to get a good idea of where my sides are. And like I said, I'm going to use my wood burner, but don't do that. So I'm just going to make a hole, and then I'll flip it around and make a hole on the other side. So go ahead and get your handle holes in, and we'll come back. Alright, I have a hole for my handle on each side. Now we're just going to take our scrapbooking paper, and of course if you have two-sided like this, make sure that this is what we're going to see, so it's facing up. I'm just using plain red today, and we're going to make a cone. Once again, it does not have to be perfect. I'm just going to get this into a cone shape. I think this paper's a bit too big, but we can still work with it. We're going to get it into a cone shape and then place it into our cone and then let it expand to fit. And as you can see, it doesn't go all the way to the bottom. That's not important. Just make sure you have a good fit. And then go around 3 or 4 places and drop hot glue down in here to keep that paper in place. I'm sure you're interested in seeing me use a glue gun. Just squeeze some glue in there and get that paper attached. I don't know, 3 or 4 places is fine. Alright, I have my paper glued in, and if it melts your plastic a little bit, that's not going to affect our project. So now all we're going to do is use our scissors and cut all the way around the cone so that our lining is the same as our cone. Okay, I have trimmed around my cone, and now if you want these paper edges to be perfect, just get a emery board and sand around it. That's fine, you can do that. I'm going to leave mine the way it is. Now we need to poke through that paper where our handle holes are, and be careful. I'm going through, I don't know, a couple of layers here, so it's fighting me a little bit. So go ahead and do that on both sides. Now it's time to place our cone back onto our doily, and make sure that the right side of your doily is underneath. This is the wrong side. And I'm going to line mine up with the bottom so that the top of this has a bit of decoration. So I'm just going to line this up and pull it over. So I'm going to dab some glue here and there. Doesn't have to be much. And then just pull this. Oh, I think I glued my doily to my board. Okay. Yeah. That's okay. We're just going to keep going. And now just bring this side over and glue that. Alright, my doily is on. And now we have to open these handle holes again. Just poke our scissors through, if you can figure out where it's at. Here somewhere. Okay, honestly, there is a hole here. Okay, poke through the handle holes. Okay, I managed to accomplish that very difficult feat. So now, I am going to make a tassel for mine, and of course, you don't have to. I'm just going to use my crochet thread and wrap this around until it's the thickness that I want. And I have a tendency to make mine way too thick, so I'm going to try not to do that. So go ahead and wrap your thread around. Okay, I have wrapped this about 50 times. We're going to cut it, and then we're going to use a quite long piece of crochet thread. Maybe it doesn't have to be that long, but we're going to need this to help us get this into the cone. So cut a fairly good section of it, and now we're going to go up underneath of our strings with this needle and pull that thread through. Of course, you don't have to use a yarn needle. You could, I don't know, use a crochet hook or whatever works best for you. I don't know what's up with that one, but we're going to act like it's not there. Now we're just going to tie a knot. Seriously, I just tried to tie a knot all on one string. Don't do that. Okay, so let's get this nice and tight, or as tight as you possibly can. If you're doing this by yourself, it can be challenging to get it very tight, you know, and in the end it's not going to really make any difference, I guess. So let's get this tied the best we can. Semi sort of kind of tight. And then let's slide this off. Straighten this tassel out. Okay, let's get another piece of our crochet thread. And we will tie it, I don't know, however big you want the top of your tassel to be. I think it's just personal preference. And none of mine ever come out exactly the same, so, and they all work. So let's just go ahead and tie this up. Okay. Now let's just trim it. Don't cut your top strings, which is something I would probably do, but don't do that. And we're just going to cut these threads apart. And then once we get all that done, let's go ahead and trim this across and make it fairly even. And then I'll come back. Okay, my little tassel is done and trimmed up. So I'm going to go ahead and thread these top strings that we have, these long strings that we have left. Thread those onto your yarn needle, if in fact you're using a yarn needle. Okay, don't know what that little short thing is, but we'll keep going. Now I'm going to feed this into the bottom of my cone. I don't know if it's on the inside or not. No, it isn't. Okay, I totally can't see from this angle, so I'm going to do this off camera, but feed this through your cone and pull it out at the top. Okay, I have my tassel down at the bottom of my cone. Now you could leave some of this string and let this tassel be able to move around. I'm going to glue mine right up here. Either way is fine, so I'm just going to put some glue here. And go ahead and pull this tassel up. So now we just have to wait for this to dry. My tassel is dry. I still have these strings. Actually, it still has the yarn needle on it. Oh, no, it doesn't. Now, you're not going to be able to see this really, but I'm going to drop some hot glue down inside of here. And just let that fall down in there. And then I will cut my strings. Now, let's work out about how long we would like our handle to be. And remember, we're going to knot each end, so I'm going to do a little bit extra. And I'm going to thread this ribbon onto my yarn needle. And then I'm going to poke it in this hole that I had such a hard time finding earlier. I'm going to just pull that through. Now, you could just glue these handles on. You don't really have to make the holes. You don't have to bring them to the inside and tie them. It's a tiny bit of a challenge because my hole isn't crazy big, but I didn't want it crazy big. So just work at it. It'll eventually come through. Or I hope so, or we won't have a handle. This ribbon is not like the others I made. This is kind of a papery type ribbon. Well, goodness sakes, we have success. Okay, now let's just tie a knot. So that it will stay inside the cone. And you can glue the knot down at the end if you want. I probably won't bother, but you can. Go ahead and trim a little bit of this off. And then just pull it back through. There we are. And then wrap your handle around to the other side and repeat the same thing. So it's time for the fun part, and that is decorating. Now you can get as elaborate as you want to. You could put gems on here, rhinestones, buttons, I don't know, charms, pendants, whatever you want to do. I'm going to decorate mine fairly simply. Now I am going to attempt to make a bow here, and I do not have mad bow making skills, although they're a little bit better when the ribbon is double-sided, which obviously this one isn't. And this glitter keeps coming off. It's kind of annoying. Don't use this ribbon. Use something that's not annoying. Okay. It's kind of a big bow. Make it a little bit smaller. Okay. I'm going to go with this. Not put you through the misery of watching me. So I'm going to glue mine right here. So let's let that dry. And I'll be right back. Okay, I think it's set now. So I'm just going to trim my ribbon. And of course, you trim it the way you want. Make it as short or as long as you want. Okay, now I am going to wrap this ribbon. I'm going to put some hot glue right here. Well, I guess we can just go ahead and do it. And I'm not putting a whole lot of glue, because sometimes I do have to take this off and do it again because it just doesn't quite go where I want it to go. But if you wrap this around, let's get some hot glue here. Okay, let that dry and then trim your ribbon. Okay, you see how this point is kind of off to the side a little bit. I try not to let that happen, but I'm going to go with this anyway. Make your point match up. And I think for this one, I'm going to use the Christmas tree sticker. And I'm going to beef it up with some hot glue. And then just place it here in the center of my cone. So there we go. Here's your little Christmas cone made out of a plastic bottle. Now, like I said, you can go crazy on your decorating. I have one that I made earlier, and on this one I used that little snowflake sticker. But on this one, I used a different doily. It was still 6-inch, but I cut this one so that the cone was flat. I glued down these knots. And I'm using this Merry Christmas, Joy, Love, Peace ribbon that we use on the Advent calendar. But for this one, I put a keyhole in the center. And then I wasn't going to put anything on the bottom at all. But then I decided I would like to have a key on there. So that's what that looks like. And you know, whatever you want to put on here to fancy these up. You can make these for a wedding. Use some pretty satin ribbon, the wedding colors, and do that. And as far as these go, you could do whatever you want with them. You could, they'd be cute if you put them on each person's place setting, if you're having Christmas dinner. But I think what I'm going to do with mine is fill them with candy and put them on my Christmas tree, along the bottom of my Christmas tree. So I hope that you will make some of these. They're a lot of fun to make. And thank you so much for watching.